We'll go ahead and do the last one. I'm going to do the third and final design for the challenge here, the random shape. And let's see. I think we'll go back. Actually, no, I was going to do closed curves again. I think we'll do shapes this time. And I won't close my eyes for this one, but we'll use a bunch of, let's see, let's just put stuff together in a weird order. I'll use some circles. I'll use some ellipses. And for good measure, a rectangle. Now, in order to give us our actual challenge shape, I need to cut all of the intersecting parts out to get just the shape on its own. And this is going to be a very unusual looking shape. Alright, we'll go ahead and create a copy. And right away, this, I can't even tell what that looks like. It almost looks like a leg from a mech. This is the hip up here, here's the leg, and then here's the knee, and then there's no foot, and it continues down there. This one, this one is going to be interesting. Our last transformation command we haven't used is mirror, so this one is going to be mirrored. And let's see. I guess we can start by adding in some inner detail and just seeing where the design goes. I think this one I want to be a bit more organic looking, and I don't know how I'm going to pull that off with the shapes that I gave myself here, but we'll just see. That's why it's a challenge. Try not to obscure the rectangular shape. While I'm experimenting around with this series of shapes, I guess we can talk a little bit more about gaming related things. One thing that I'm going to be trying at some point is the popular game that's everyone's talking about now on the internet, which is Fall Guys. That is the sort of obstacle course battle royale type game that's fairly new and came out, what, a month or two ago? But everybody and their mother has been playing it. Popular streamers, YouTubers, everyone's been playing it. And I'm not a big battle royale person, but the reason why I'm getting into it is because my younger brother, who lives in another state, he recently decided to pick it up, and he's been playing it with his roommates. And so he asked me fairly recently if I wanted to give it a try, and the game does look fun and interesting. So I did pick it up. I haven't tried it yet because we haven't had a chance to play online, but at some point I'll be taking a look at that. I don't think I'm going to be doing anything with it for YouTube, at least not right away. I want to give it a try and just get familiar with it, and then we'll see. Everyone is doing videos on Fall Guys right now, so I don't really feel like jumping on the bandwagon is really going to bring a lot to the table as far as additional content, and I'm not really in the habit of riding trends when it comes to the stuff I make videos on. But we'll see. If I end up bringing back gaming streams on Twitch at some point, maybe I'll look at doing like a stream where I play Fall Guys and people can tune in and watch. But the gaming streams have sort of fallen by the wayside since I use my stream time each week to work on art-related stuff. That's a bit higher priority for me than playing games, but we'll see. At some point, I do want to come back and report on what I thought of Fall Guys, having played it, so whether that's a dedicated video or the next drawing commentary, which I plan on recording more of soon. One thing I was thinking about as I was planning to sit down and do this one for the Rhino designs is I think it would be fun to do a random shape drawing challenge for sprites too. That's going to be challenging in its own right, since the overall parameters and constraints I work under for creating the sprites is different from designs here. I don't have as many powerful commands to use in Photoshop, so that would largely be me sitting there with a shape that I draw and trying to create a sprite from it. Or, if I really want to make my job interesting, I could take the shapes from this drawing challenge and pull them over into Photoshop and try and create a sprite from them. That's possible too. I guess we'll have to see what makes the most sense once I actually get to that point. But the next series of videos will most likely be random shape drawing challenges for sprites in some capacity. I just need to figure out how I want to do that. Alright. Going back to our design here, as I've been talking, what I've sort of inadvertently created or intentionally created is something that looks like a limb. I mentioned before that the square sections or rectangular sections up top look like it could have been like a shoulder or something for a mech. I think I want to run with that idea, and since we're going to be mirroring things, look at creating something that's going to be biomechanical in nature. And to that end, I think we're going to need to move our shape here over to the side and give us more room. We could do some things that are going to sort of lean more towards the mechanical side by doing wiring with some texture on it. As folks who've tuned into my streams have noticed, in addition to the monster and creature type sprite designs that I've been drawing, I spend a lot of time working on my Mecha series that I have done a drawing commentary video on before from the sprite side. The Eternus Core Mecha designs have been a real fun project to work on over the last couple of years, I think it is now. And it's always interesting to try and come up with a new design and integrate features from the kind of well-known mecha concepts of yore, as it were. Having consumed a lot of mecha type media, it's been interesting to try and translate that over to the design side for these things that I'm working on, and just see where the inspiration sort of winds up. And this is going to be sort of an extension of that, and we try and create some sort of mechanical type creature that we're going to mirror across and complete once we get to the end. But what I'll do is, while I'm figuring out what else I want to do with the main sections here, I could talk about let's see, what other things gaming wise am I doing? In the month of September, later this month, the Tokyo Game Show is going to be going on. I'll be very curious to see what comes out of that, assuming I'm awake when it happens. Maybe I can catch the live stream for it if they end up streaming it. But everyone is very curious as to what's going to be unveiled or announced this year. I think of interest, it's very possible we're going to see an announcement from Capcom on the next Monster Hunter project they're working on. The recent announcements have stated that for Monster Hunter World Iceborne, the final free title update is coming out at the beginning of October, which introduces the classic monster Fatalis to the game. And then after that, there won't be any additional free monster updates and free content for the game. And overall, it's a little bit bittersweet because Iceborne's been out for, a year or so now? But the developers have said before that they had a finite amount of content they were going to be adding before they move on to the next big thing. They weren't intending for Iceborne to be the sort of game as a service platform that they're going to just continually update, which I think is fine. One of the traps a lot of developers get into, at least from what I've seen, is sort of just iterating forever without ever furthering their platform, and it gets kind of into a rut. And Capcom has never really done that with Monster Hunter. They always forge ahead to the next big thing and sort of evolve the game and keep adding new things. So my money for Tokyo Game Show, and at some point in the future when I do another video after that, we'll see if I'm right. My money's on a Switch Monster Hunter. They have to announce something Monster Hunter related with Iceborne starting to wind down. My guess is because there hasn't been anything on Nintendo systems in a while, it's going to be a Switch title. And that would be good because while I do play a lot of Iceborne on PC, the vast majority of my Monster Hunter quote-unquote career time has been on a handheld device because it's easier to play. Play on the go, it's portable, it's easier to do multiplayer back when we can actually interact in person with other humans. But the Switch is a powerful console, and I think they could create a good next-gen Monster Hunter game that pulls over a lot of the quality of life improvements from World, while also trying to come up with something new. And I would definitely be on board for that, especially if they're gonna move towards a global release schedule instead of what they've done in the past for their portable titles, where they come out in Japan and then a year and a half later it comes out for the West, and or the West gets the G/Ultimate version rather than the vanilla game. Because World was able to prove that they could release things on all platforms at once and have the game still sell really well, I think it would be good if they moved to that model in the future for all their other games. That way you're not having a big portion of your audience having to wait, and you have a lag between when the content gets released across different platforms. That's what I would hope. On the other fronts for things coming out, I know in a recent Nintendo Direct, they finally announced Shin Megami Tensei 5, I believe it was. I need to go track down that footage because I didn't actually watch it. I just heard about it from some folks I know. But the next SMT game is going to be coming out on Switch, which is exciting. It was originally announced when the system launched, I think, however many years ago. But I haven't played a mainline SMT game in a couple years, and it would definitely be good to get into that again. I think during the last announcement, in addition to SMT 5, they announced that a remastered version of Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne is coming out on the Switch. It's either Switch or Steam. I want to say Switch. Which, that was something I wasn't expecting to hear anytime soon. I think I've talked about it on videos before, but my favorite SMT game that I've played since I got in the series a little bit late is Nocturne. Played that in the late 2000s at the insistence of my friend Flammy, and I absolutely loved it. I ended up spending like 200 something hours, I think, on my first playthrough, just because I wanted to min-max everything and I wanted to create the perfect demon fusions and all that. But it's a really good, brutally tough RPG, and it features Dante from the Devil May Cry series, which is where that meme came from, I think. But seeing a remastered version of Nocturne on Switch would be great. I would pick that up in a heartbeat, and then my free time would vanish even faster than it has before. But I can't remember if they announced a release date for that. I will have to check, and it's very possible we'll see something concrete at TGS this year. And then hopefully it releases on all platforms in a timely fashion. I'm pretty sure it hasn't come out yet, otherwise I would have heard about it. I'm way behind in my SMT and SMT adjacent playthroughs. I still haven't played through Persona 5 yet. I had bought a copy of the vanilla version on PS4 when it came out and decided to just hold on to it till I got around to playing the game. But then they announced and released Royal, which would be like the golden / upgraded version of the game, and I said I'm just going to play that, but I haven't picked it up yet. And fairly recently, maybe last couple months or so, the Steam version of Persona 4 Golden came out, and I wanted to play through that again since Golden is one of my favorite RPGs to come out in the last several years. Basically, the story of my life, because I'm so busy doing art and other YouTube stuff, is that I have an ever-growing backlog of games that I need to play, and rather than buzz through games and complete them, I tend to get sucked into a couple and then play them for a long time and not get to the rest of the backlog. But what are you going to do? It's probably one of the most first world problems to have. I can't really complain. I will never be short of video games to play through. Alright, let me finish cutting out these sections here and we'll sort of jump back to our design here and see where we're at. I've been talking for a while and not really speaking on what I'm doing here, as we've built out what is evolving into a mech creature, it looks like. What we've got is sort of a walker bipedal mech by design, I guess. I may have walker type mechs on my brain since I just watched a couple episodes of The Mandalorian yesterday and there was an ATST walker in one of the episodes. That could very well be where that comes from, since subliminally things will just enter into my brain. But what I'm seeing here is sort of a two-legged mech. The body's here, and the cockpit / canopy area would be down here towards the bottom. I do want to continue to build out the details on both the torso and then the leg section, which is part of our challenge. But overall, I think this thing is taking shape, and it'll be interesting to see once we actually mirror the whole thing around what it looks like. We could add some weapons, like a rocket launcher, that would be appropriate for a mech type design. Almost looks like something you'd see out of something like Mech Warrior. That's one series I never really got too into, especially in the PC era. I played 2 of the Mech Warrior games on Super Nintendo. I remember renting them from Blockbuster back in the day, but I never beat them, and they were sort of obtuse, clunky games, as is common in the mech type genres. Like I've mentioned on previous videos before, the majority of my mech type media consumption for video games is easily Armored Core. FromSoft's legacy as the quote-unquote Dark Souls game developers has somewhat eclipsed their reputation for creating unnecessarily detailed games about mecha combat, but I spent many dozens of hours playing the Armored Core games. The series has sort of fallen off for me just because I haven't kept up on the stuff they've done in the last couple years, but overall it seems like their focus hasn't really been on the series unless something has come out that I just don't know about. And I would like to see them return to form with a new Armored Core game, especially with the next-gen systems coming out. I think the problem with that series, that probably why we don't see a lot of games for it, is the fact that it's very niche. Souls games tend to be somewhat niche, but they're a lot more mainstream now, with Souls-like being just a straight genre now. But the Armored Core series was always a lot more niche and had a pretty hardcore dedicated community, but it wasn't something you were going to see a lot of people playing just because they were difficult games to get into, and the community itself was hardcore, and that the competitive aspects were all people who've been playing the game since the very first installment. So it wasn't very friendly for new people. But I would hope that at some point some sort of Armored Core game comes out. Maybe updated for the current generations. I know on Switch and PC, Daemon X Machina, which was created by one of the Armored Core development members or former development team members, something like that. That game came out and was supposed to be pretty decent. It's another thing on my backlog list that I want to pick up and try. But as far as a true Armored Core game, we haven't really seen any recently. Not since, I want to say Verdict Day, maybe? Hard to say, I didn't play that one. But I think it was on Xbox One? The last one I played might have been on 360? Hard to say, I haven't really thought about that series in a while.